What if I told you the colors we're supposed to wear are invisible cages? That these made-up rules telling us which colors are for boys and which are for girls are trapping us in boxes that have nothing to do with who we are? It sounds dramatic, but stick with me. And what if I told you that just over a century ago, the so-called manly color wasn't blue, but pink? And the delicate, dainty color for girls was actually blue? The color rules we live by today aren't timeless traditions, they're surprisingly recent inventions. So how did society build these colorful cages that dictate everything from nursery walls to our own self-expression? Let's rewind the clock. Before the 20th century, gendering a baby's color would have seemed bizarre. For hundreds of years, most little kids in the West, boys and girls alike, wore the same thing: simple white dresses. On your screen now is a famous photo of a young Franklin D. Roosevelt from 1880. Notice the long hair and the frilly white dress, looking completely normal for the time. This wasn't about fashion, it was about practicality. White cotton could be bleached to remove stains, and dresses made diaper changes much easier. Kids were just kids. Their clothes were gender neutral because childhood was seen as a time of asexual innocence. It wasn't until around age 6 or 7 that boys would get their first haircut and be breeched, put into pants for the first time. Pastel colors like pink and blue started showing up for babies in the mid-19th century. But they were for all babies. This was a world without pink and blue aisles where a color was just a color, not a label. The first real suggestions to color code kids by gender started appearing just before World War I, and they were the opposite of today. A June 1918 article from a trade publication called Earnshaw's Infants Department spelled it out. The generally accepted rule is pink for the boy and blue for the girl. The logic? Pink, being a stronger color, was thought more suitable for boys. Blue, delicate and serene, was considered prettier for girls, partly because of its association with the Virgin Mary and religious art. Pink was viewed as a lighter shade of powerful, masculine red. But it wasn't universal. A 1927 Time magazine survey found some big department stores, like Feline's in Boston and Marshall Field's in Chicago, did recommend pink for boys. Yet other sources ignored gender altogether and suggested colors should match a baby's hair or eyes, blue for blue-eyed babies, for example. Our current color rules aren't just recent, they're a complete reversal of what once made sense. So, how did everything flip? The switch was gradual but solidified in the 1940s and 50s, driven by post-war culture and clever marketing. After World War II, there was a cultural push to re-establish traditional gender roles. Men returned from the war, women were encouraged back into domestic life, and fashion helped reinforce it. Designers and advertisers promoted pink for girls, blue for boys, with vigor. One powerful influence was First Lady Mamie Eisenhower. At her husband's 1953 inauguration, she wore a stunning pink gown covered in 2,000 rhinestones. Her love of the color and her popularity helped cement pink as feminine. The media even dubbed certain shades Mamie Pink. Hollywood chimed in, too. The 1957 musical Funny Face featured a whole number commanding women to think pink as the pinnacle of feminine fashion. But the biggest driver was commerce. Manufacturers realized they could kill the hand-me-down tradition and double their profits. If you had a boy then a girl, you couldn't just reuse the same set of clothes or toys. You'd have to buy everything all over again. This hand-me-down killer strategy sealed the modern color divide. Once the rules stuck, society enforced it everywhere. Colors extended from clothing to toys. By the 50s and 60s, boys had G.I. Joe, girls had Barbie, packaged in their now familiar blue and pink. The women's liberation movement of the 60s and 70s briefly disrupted this. Unisex clothing caught on, and for a while, the Sears catalog barely showed pink toddler clothes. But the 1980s brought the divide roaring back, thanks to prenatal testing. For the first time, parents could know a baby's sex before birth, fueling gender reveal practices. Retailers capitalized on this, selling everything in designated pink or blue, from balloons to teddy bears. Before they were even born, kids were already being locked in. It might look harmless, but these cages carry real weight. Color coding reinforces a strict gender binary, two boxes with fixed rules. For those who don't fit neatly inside, the rules can feel alienating and damaging. Even for those who do, expression shrinks. A girl who likes blue risks being called a tomboy. A boy who likes pink may be labeled effeminate. What should be a simple preference becomes a test of conformity. Some women even describe disliking pink because they felt forced to reject it just to be taken seriously. This divide also feeds larger inequities. It conditions kids early on that their gender dictates expectations for their toys, their behaviors, and even their future career paths. It even connects to the pink tax, where products marketed to women often cost more than the equivalent men's items. But the good news? The walls of these cages are cracking. Millennials and Gen Z are rejecting these old rules, choosing authenticity over boxes. In fashion, gender-neutral and gender-fluid styles are becoming mainstream. Brands like Telfar and the Fluid Project, alongside major designers, are actively breaking down binaries. Celebrities like Harry Styles and Billie Eilish are pushing this trend worldwide. It's more than just clothing. It's a political statement. By embracing the full spectrum of color, people are demanding visibility and acceptance. They're proving that these rules are learned, not natural, and that means they can be unlearned. The history of pink and blue shows just how arbitrary these rules are. They were invented, flipped, and then sold to us. Now we get to decide what they mean. What's your experience with gendered colors? Have you ever felt boxed in by them? Share your story in the comments below. And if you found this dive into cultural history useful, make sure to subscribe for more content just like this. From white baby dresses to pink for boys to the post-war boom that built today's cages, the story of color and gender is a roller coaster. It shows how recent and artificial these traditions really are. But the story of color and gender is also a history of being told who we are by what we wear. Now the cages are cracking, the walls are falling, and the future is open to every single shade.